You reach the outskirts of a dark dungeon, and you smell the scent of rotting flesh next to you. The mist thickens, and the air grows dense with tension as you hear howling in the distance. You walk forward, counting every pace until you're engulfed in darkness. You light a torch, only to be met by a monstrosity that barely resembles a man. Oh yeah, you're going to be seeing this screen a lot, don't worry. Fear and Hunger is an awful, unpleasant, and nightmarish experience. It's a unique game that encapsulates despair and, well, fear and hunger. Only people who are downright insane and masochistic would say that they actually enjoy this game, because who would, right? You know, I like this game a lot. I'm one of those people who enjoy feeling miserable in games, as long as it has some interesting and fun elements to them. I like games that involve strategy rather than brute force. It reminds me of Darkest Dungeon 1 and 2, both of which I enjoy playing. Dead. I beat him with 1 HP! Oh my god! It's a polarizing experience that definitely has some love and thought put into it. Just know that it's a terrible, unforgiving world that doesn't care about your feelings and treats you as if you were nothing more than meat. Okay. That being said, if you're willing to take the plunge into insanity, Fear and Hunger is definitely worth the trouble. It's just 8 smackaroos. Before I get into the review, it's Spooktober month. I'll only be making content about horror games for the entirety of this month, and we'll go through what I believe are interesting titles, whether it be big titles like Resident Evil or an indie game. There are some minor spoilers in case you were wondering, and lots of fruits and vegetables. So if you have fruitophobia or lacanophobia, you've been warned. Grab a snack and get comfy, because we've got a lot to discuss here. I hope you enjoyed the video. Fear and Hunger isn't for everyone. Let me get that straight. You need to be patient, willing to experiment, and practically torture yourself to enjoy it. Early on, those moments where you feel like you're endlessly dying to accomplish something are times you'll want to relive. When you become a master after spending enough hours, you eventually lose the thrill because you figure out what's going to happen. Knowing what I know now, Fear and Hunger is a testing experience that won't hit as hard the second time you try to get back up. If you know how to take a punch, you'll come to understand the game itself and value its sheer depth. Oh! Okay. The great thing about Fear and Hunger is the amount of content packed away underneath its gruesome surface. The main selling point of Fear and Hunger is the amount of intrigue it has. Not understanding the enemies, random events, and routing is what gives every fresh run the spice of life. It's the fear of the unknown that drives this game to its fullest potential. The fact that you don't know what's around every corner or what to do next is exciting. Miro, the developer of Fear and Hunger, pulls off something we as people tend to desire often in our dull lives: morbid curiosity. You don't know what new enemies will do to you, or if something is trapped or poisoned, but you do know one thing: death is certain. This place is huge. You died because of your infected wound. Nice. In a world so cruel it's kill or be killed, and you're going to come to terms with that one way or another. The atmosphere is very gripping, as it'll have you on the edge of your seat while you're traversing each deadly corridor. Eventually, the despair becomes almost suffocating, and there's very scarce moments of reprieve to let you breathe. Honestly, it's a perfect game filled with despair, a recipe for disaster, in a good way. Fear and Hunger's story is carried by its depth and interesting lore, most of which you find through books along your delve. It's a fantastic, grisly tale wrought with twists and turns that I've never seen before in a game. Each character you play feels unique, as they all have different interactions with one another throughout your journey. You can talk to them from time to time, and they all share unique insights. They may even pause venturing with you because they're practically going insane. Gahera, Darcy, Inky, and Ragnavaldr all have their own motivations for delving into the darkest dungeon. Gahera decides to embark on a bounty hunt for Lagarde in order to settle his debts and buy his wife's freedom. Darcy is in search of Lagarde as she loves him. Inky searches the dungeon for Lagarde because he's the prophesized chosen one, and Ragnavaldr is adamant about killing Lagarde to avenge his family. Different motivations, same goal. There's a lot to unpackage when you're only briefly introduced to each character's backstory, and what I enjoy about each of them is they all play differently. I'll give credit where credit's due and say the game gives you a sense of choice when deciding how you want to play and finish the game. Logically, you'd want to leave the dungeon as soon as possible, but eventually a part of you feels that just won't suffice. The best way I can put it is what the player finds satisfactory in terms of how they want in Fear and Hunger. In order to better understand the story, you have to understand what exactly influences its people and drives its terrors. There are interesting characters like Pocket Cat, Lagarde, and Nosaramus, all of which are influenced by gods or achieving godhood. I believe the origin of suffering comes from its particularly uncaring gods. There are three main ones that you can pray to, such as Almer the Ascended, Sylvian, the god of life and love, and Grogoroth, the destroyer of man. The mythology of Fear and Hunger is so vast that you can easily get lost in it. When you start understanding the world's beliefs and engage in its mythos, you ultimately start understanding how the world works within the game. There are multiple endings to be had, and all of them aren't necessarily happy endings. After finishing roughly 5 different endings, I found ending A to be my favorite. The whole process of accomplishing that ending was gratifying, and the way the story concludes is canon. As I said, I don't want to spoil anything, so we'll just keep that under wraps. Go play the game yourself. If I can beat this game, you can too. This isn't your traditional JRPG experience, and it definitely won't be your last. I would suggest throwing everything you know about RPGs out the window because Fear and Hunger doesn't play by the rules. It's a cold, brutal world that will kill you if you decide to overstay your welcome. It rewards those who have patience, courage, and hunger to overcome heaps of trial and error. If you're new to the game, it will feel unfair, and that's because the world doesn't care about you. You're not some hero that everyone bows down to. You're just a nobody trying to accomplish the impossible, an unsung hero that will be forgotten in history. Why can't I kill everything? Oh, at least you gave me a good death. Why are there hardly any saves? Why does everything kill me so fast? What the hell are you? You're going to learn very quickly that this game is brutally difficult at first until you get the swing of things. The combat can be seen more as a puzzle game than an actual turn-based RPG. If you exploit weaknesses, you'll most definitely win an encounter, most of the time. In this game, you don't earn experience when you kill monsters. You, the player, earn experience. What I mean by that is, with each encounter, you learn that there are monsters you can avoid and others you simply can't. Simple guards aren't worth killing all the time unless they get in the way, and the game will feel like a war of attrition where it'll slowly strangle you to death. But if you're clever and understand how each enemy works, you'll do just fine. You'll have moments where a monster will surprise and terrify you. Having no ideas on how to dispatch them deepens the overall experience. It gives you this sense of helplessness. The enemy variety in Fear and Hunger is large and makes every encounter feel like your last. Enemies behave very differently from one another, and understanding their unique traits is to your own benefit. My only complaint is that early on, it'll feel extremely unfair, where every coin flip attack that one-shots you is quite awful.
Stupid bastard, you've got no arms left. Yes, I have. Look! It's just a flesh wound.
But understand, you'll always have options. You can run, you can guard, or try to kill something off very quickly. I won't reveal too much about enemies, but as a tip, there are notorious ones in the mines, namely casters in yellow robes that try to destroy your limbs. Kill them immediately, and you won't be sorry.
Fuck? Oh my god, seriously? That's it, I'm gonna kill you.
You can also guard against the guard's grab after you cut off his left arm. Throughout the game, I found it difficult to avoid limb losses and negative status effects in runs. A single infection can kill a party member if not treated, and if you don't have the necessary materials to deal with it, you're SOL. Enemies can also give you broken bones, suck the life force out of you, or even poison you. Saves are scarce, and meaningful when you're playing on Fear and Hunger difficulty. On hard mode, you can't save at all. Enemies hit harder, have more health, and some come packing with different things as well. So if you're new, you should definitely get accustomed to the game before you start taking off the training wheels. What I like the most about this game is that items are randomized, making every playthrough feel different from one another. You may end up with a ton of empty scrolls, food, or healing in certain runs, but no matter what you do, you'll always have the tools you need to survive. There are also unique weapons scattered throughout the game that require you to do certain things in order to acquire them safely. In return for your sacrifices, you acquire vast power, even if it kills you. As we've discussed gods, there are ritual circles. You can pray, show love, or make a sacrifice to them. The biggest tool you have in your bag of tricks are skills and magic, which can only be attained through scrolls or using a hexen table. Every ability in the game opens up possibilities in how you interact with enemies or even corpses. Dash is a skill that permanently increases your movement speed, which is excellent. Black Orb is a high damage magic spell that hits an enemy 3 times, almost guaranteed. There's also the Necromancy spell, just in case you get lonely. The game has a coin flip mechanic to help avoid unwarranted penalties like rat bites, falling through a hole, or getting one-shot. It can also help earn beneficial equipment like empty scrolls and accessories. I would recommend using your lucky coins early on bookshelves to help flesh out your runs. It's a mechanic that gives a nice touch of chance and fairness while also conveying to the player that some things are just out of your control.
Oh, I'm blinded. I love this game. I love it. I love...
My advice to achieve greater success is to find companions fast, whether they be undead or breathing.
It's free real estate.
It's your key to survival, as having more bodies helps you dish out meaningful damage and take it as well. More limbs to go around never hurt anybody. I wouldn't recommend looking things up until you're actually stuck, or if you have about 10 plus hours of gameplay, or you're trying to find different endings. The sound design isn't immaculate by any means, far from that actually. It's downright tormenting. It engages you with the feeling of dread and despair. From the get-go, you hear the atmosphere of the entrance to this giant dungeon. It gives off an eeriness, as if the worst has yet to come. You're then promptly greeted by the sound of barking dogs from afar, and have to enter soon. All I can say is the sound design is absolutely immersive.
Tomatoes.
Whenever you fight bosses, it feels like you're fighting something that's much greater and mightier than yourself.
Let's talk to him.
Whenever you get hit by an enemy, you can hear their attack sounds.
Fucking hell.
Sometimes they'll let out war cries as you enter battle. The sound of mutilating limbs sounds visceral and unpleasant.
God, that sound.
Come to think of it, I don't think there's a single track that gives you a sense of comfort and relief. Only torment. There are a handful of different areas the dungeon has to offer, each with its own interesting soundscape. Like I said, I don't want to spoil too much, so I'm only showing a few, but there is the castle itself with its treacherous turns and ominous atmosphere, the misty courtyard, and there's a hefty, all-consuming thicket. In general, the sounds of fear and hunger only amplify the horrors you face while delving in the dungeon. Even though it sounds a bit basic at times, it's well delivered and pretty spooky. After spending countless hours playing and achieving the endings I wanted, I can safely say that Fear and Hunger is a great game. Would I recommend it to everyone? No. It's the equivalent of asking someone if they want to go bungee jumping or skydiving. Not everyone is going to say yes, but those that do will enjoy the thrill it brings. Fear and Hunger is a once-in-a-lifetime experience that's well thought out and has a lot of intriguing aspects about it. It's a brutal and cruel game that depicts the worst in humanity with some eldritch and religious themes tied to it. After all I've been through, I'm giving Fear and Hunger an 8.4 out of 10. It's definitely worth trying out if you're willing to embrace the chaos. It sells the atmosphere of utter hopelessness, and I think that was the point. Just don't Google anything for a while and you'll enjoy yourself. I think. Shout out to Frapolo, TV Guy, and Bony Boy with a hat.
I am not nice.
They make up a good part of the community surrounding this game and help build its fun experience. That's another thing I wanted to mention. The community for this game is awesome and friendly. I love the game so much that I'm going to play Fear and Hunger 2 Termina at some point, so stay tuned for that review as well. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. If you stayed with me till the end, let me know what game you want to see during Spooktober month in the comments. I might just review it. Thank you for watching, and as always, see you around.